Let us journey back, not just in years, but in lifetimes forgotten, into the narrow, shadowy corridors of our collective origin. There, beneath layers of dust and time, where silence presses in like ancient smoke, the walls begin to whisper. This is not just art. This is memory. This is survival rendered visible. In the cave sanctuaries of our ancestors, places like Chubet, Pech Merle, and Blombos, the rock itself holds testimony. The figures we find etched and painted are not decorative, not idle. They are breath caught mid-motion. An animal, poised to leap. A spiral, inexplicable, vibrating with forgotten meaning. A human hand, pressed in ochre against the wall, declaring silently but profoundly, I was here. We are not the first to dream in symbols. Tens of thousands of years ago, long before the first cities, the first farms, or even the first written word, human beings began to leave behind more than footprints. In the southern reaches of Africa, in the quiet depths of Blombos Cave, lines were scratched onto ochre blocks, simple at first glance, but loaded with intention. Perforated shells, bone tools, pigment palettes carved from abalone shell, all suggest not utility, but symbolism. These weren't mere tools. They were expressions. Perhaps even the earliest sparks of imagination. And they were not uniquely ours. In the caves of Spain, symbols dating back 64,000 years predate the arrival of Homo sapiens. Their likely authors. The Neanderthals. These weren't brutish imitators. They, too, felt the pull to represent, to eternalize. The fire of creation, once lit, did not remain local. It spread, across mountains, across oceans, across generations. In Sulawesi and Borneo, wild pigs and cattle stepped forward from limestone walls. In Australia, the rock art of the Kimberley region tells a story 40,000 years old. And in nearly every corner of the Paleolithic world, the same subjects emerge, animals. Lions, mammoths, bison, rendered with such care, such realism, that they seem to pulse with life. But among all this majesty, a quiet pattern, humans are rare. And when they do appear, they are often not triumphant, but wounded. Fallen. Punctured by spears, pierced through the chest, arms flung wide in gestures of pain. Or defiance. Take, for instance, the striking tableau in Pech Merle, where horses, dappled with spots later confirmed by genetic evidence to be accurate, seem to breathe against the stone. But nearby, the scene shifts, a schematic human figure lies prone, spears thrust into its torso. Not chaos, but narrative. This was painted with intent. It could be a victim, or it could be a warning. This is what happens when lines are crossed. Across caves in France, Cognac, Roque de Serres, Lascaux. Similar figures surface. A man fused with a great deer. A body running, pierced, pursued. A bird-headed figure fallen before a disemboweled bison. Some see shamans mid-trance, others see hunters in peril. Either way, these images speak not only of survival, but of meaning woven through pain. Were these records of real events? Murders, punishments, legends? Or were they myths, oral traditions captured in pigment? We cannot say with certainty. But we do know this. The emotional weight is undeniable. The world of the Upper Paleolithic was not some golden Eden, nor was it hellish chaos. It was more intimate. More human. Around 37,000 years ago, fewer than 4,000 Homo sapiens roamed all of Europe. A continent populated by the number of students in a single modern school. They lived in mobile bands, 15 to 30 strong. Communities stitched together by necessity and emotion. In such closeness, tensions flare. Jealousy. Betrayal. Humiliation. The causes of conflict were often personal, not political. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherers have found that over half of homicides arise from personal disputes, within the group, among relatives. And most were deliberate. Carried out with purpose, remembered for generations. Perhaps that is why some made their way onto stone. And not all the threats were human. In several panels, it is not man against man, but man against nature. Bison, with open bellies and visceral wounds, dominate scenes where humans lie fallen, limbs akimbo, faces masked, death implied but never made obvious. The ambiguity leaves room for speculation, failed hunts, shamanic rites, comical stories retold in gesture and pigment. In Malibu, we find one of the strangest images, a bison-bodied creature with human arms, twisted in pain. It blurs the line between man and beast, hunter and hunted. A mask, or a transformation. Across time and space, echoes emerge. Indigenous shamans in North America once wore bison skins in ritual, an accidental parallel, or something more universal. This is the realm of mythology. Of archetypes. Of ancestral memory. The Upper Paleolithic peoples, Aurignacians, Gravettians, Magdalenians, were not empty vessels. They dreamed. They believed. They explained the world with image and ritual, as much as with fire and flint. Their art, especially when it depicts violence, is never arbitrary. It speaks of a worldview where pain and death were not only endured, but understood. Perhaps they did not distinguish between the mythic and the real. Perhaps we shouldn't either. Because in these fragments of ochre and charcoal, these ancient gestures in flickering torchlight, we find not strangers, but kin. Not savages, but seekers. Men and women who looked into the dark, saw monsters and memories, and chose to leave behind a sign. A message that still speaks to us, through the silence of millennia: I was here. I feared. I fought. I believed. I remembered. And so do we.